Hello, and welcome back to the Flying Cat Marketing interview series. Today, I have Travis Tyler, who is the digital content producer at PandaDoc, which is a tool that lets you create, track, and sign e-documents. Travis has his own podcast. He does videos for PandaDoc. He's been a part of the blog. He's been behind the scenes of the demand gen over there, and he's also a fellow improviser. So I'm really excited to have you on the call today, Travis. Hi.
Yo, what is up? Thank you so much. What an awesome intro. Yeah, I'm super pumped to be here and ready to get into it.
I'm pretty excited because we already started talking about cool stuff before we started recording, and then we were like, whoa. Let's just start recording because you don't want to not record the nice conversation. That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
Cool. So tell me a little bit about your journey in PandaDoc. You said you started as a copywriter, and then your boss said, the VP of marketing said, yo, actually, you're going to start recording videos now. And that's what you're doing. And actually the podcast is, I know you guys talk about product-led growth and those kind of things there. Is that also for PandaDoc?
Absolutely. The podcast, I'm going to give a quick plug if that's cool.
Yes.
So we have a podcast called the Customer Engagement Lab. It's a comedy business podcast produced by me and my co-host, Patrick Downs, who is he's a sales guy. I know, I'm sorry. And I'm the marketing person. So we kind of go back and forth and discuss different topics, but the show is a lot of fun, and it is part of our multimedia strategy at PandaDoc. So PandaDoc is the brought to you by for the show, and we haven't gotten shut down, and I haven't been fired yet. So
that's a good sign.
It's a good sign.
Those are the metrics I would track as well.
Yeah. Still getting my paycheck. So yeah.
Cool. So it's an e-document company sponsoring a comedy show. I like it. Tell me more about how this works.
Yeah, we have probably one of the unsexiest, uncoolest, pieces of software. But our name is PandaDoc. And I was like, love it or hate it, it's got a little goofy side to it. So I'm a big purveyor of comedy podcasts, and I just felt that so many business to business podcasts were putting me to sleep, and they were the same old dried up conversations. And so I said, let's put our own spin on this, and let's kind of infuse some comedy segments, some sketches, some TikTok videos, more of like a daily show kind of sketch comedy show. And then we also interview people as well and get the reactions to some of the stuff we do and try to have fun with it. So we went from boring document automation, e-signature software to chugging champagne and talking about mental health and all of the above on the show.
I'm suddenly feeling so inspired. This is my dream, to take Flying Cat to be more of a multimedia company as well. How did you get buy-in from up above? Do you have a CEO that gets marketing?
I do have a CEO that gets marketing, and he was our first guest, and he was definitely hesitant, and he's more of a reserved like executive as it is, but he has a fun side to him as well. And we tried to play into that, but the way we got buy-in was actually the VP of marketing, like his idea. And he just like came to me and said, start doing some videos. We need more videos, and stop. He's like, at one point he said to me, you're a good writer, but it's not your superpower. And I was like, oh, how could you say that? And I was like, he's right. And I put together a video just using my MacBook webcam. And I my very first video that I did was like an overview of a blog article. And I basically was like, went to my demand gen team and said, what's our most popular blog article that we've published this month? And they showed it to me. And I said, can I do a 2-minute video that we embed at the top of that blog article that just kind of gives everybody the highlights of what to expect in case they don't want to read it? And they were like, hell yeah, because that'll help our SEO efforts and make it more searchable. And once I did that, the VP of marketing was like, okay, so what do you want me to buy you? And I was like, a camera and a mic would be a good start. And the rest is history. And we got a new director of engagement marketing, which is like a role that didn't exist. And you're like, what the hell does that even mean? And he was like, I want you to start your podcast. So does the VP of marketing. Come to us pitch us an idea, do a dry run of it, and give us a proof of concept, and we'll give you some feedback.
That's the story. So how long have you been running this podcast for?
We launched our first episode in February. So we're pretty new to the game. We've only put out 13 episodes, and we're rocking and rolling.
So how do you come up with your ideas? Comedy's hard. Not only, I mean, content creation is hard in general, but to somehow tie it to comedy, to B2B. Tell me your secret.
So my secret is TikTok, and I had to take it off my phone because I was just like on it way too much, and the algorithm is just ingenious, and it's serving me up business comedy content, and I usually use that as an intro clip, and I show it to my co-host, and we actually film together in a little studio, and it's a 1-bedroom apartment that our VP of marketing uses once a month to come down for like executive staff meetings, and he's like, just transition this room into a podcast studio. We're like, hell yeah. And yeah, I really get my inspiration from there. I look to some of my favorite comedians as well. I'm a huge fan of Tom Segura. So if anybody out there, a Tom Segura fan, he has a really crazy series of podcasts that he does. And they were kind of like the inspiration, and just looking at some of what they do on like The Daily Show, Late Night with Jimmy Fallon, and just taking some of those ideas and like pivoting them a little bit, taking like silly TikTok trends. So like, again, it gets pretty chaotic. Like my co-host and I were chugging L.I.F.E, which was like a TikTok trend, and trying to make each other laugh by saying really stupid things, and then somehow tying it into like interesting forms of marketing and sales outreach. And it works, I think, somehow.
I guess we'll have to listen and see.
I think you will, and you can let us know.
After whoever listens to this episode, go listen to an episode. I guess it's not called PandaDoc. Tell me the name again.
Yeah, we decided not to name it after the company just because we work with a podcast production company to just try to like get a feel for like, how do we make this thing work? So we work with Sweetfish Media, shout out. They're the producers of the B2B Growth Show. And they help us like from concept and creation all the way to execution, and like creating consistent content and actually syndicating it. And yeah, it's called the Customer Engagement Lab.
Oh yeah.
We wanted to create a show where we talk about really interesting forms of outreach. Like, how are you breaking through the noise to get somebody's attention? Because all of us get hit up on LinkedIn and an email, and we're just triaging. We're just ignoring it unless it's an emergency or it's something really cool. So we talk with sales and marketing, kind of like mid-level or individual contributors, and say like, what are you seeing? What are you doing to break through the noise? What advice do you have for people that are trying to sell to you? How do you buy stuff in your personal life? And we try to gain some insights into like some of the wackier forms of sales outreach and marketing outreach that's, getting people to pay attention.
What's cool about it is it's not only that you're producing content. This is also what I like to say. I just noticed my microphone was pointing that way. Hopefully you still hear me this whole time. But you actually get to meet cool people and learn from them. So all of these wacky sales outreach methods that you learned, have you been able to, I mean, you're not a salesperson, but have you been able to apply any of that in your day-to-day?
So that's a really good question. I actually came up with what I call like my shower thoughts, when you have like those random thoughts when you're like doing something like taking a shower, washing dishes, and you're like, shit, this is a really good idea. Which is, I want to take some of the wackier, more experimental ideas and grab a group of SDRs here at PandaDoc, if I'm allowed to, and run some experiments with them and see if any of these forms of outreach work. Most of them involve like video. Some of them will involve, some wackier stuff. One of the examples was, we had a guy come onto our show, my friend, and say that somebody had sent his VP of sales a $10,000 Venmo request. And obviously the VP of sales was going to ignore it, or not give this guy $10,000, but it certainly got his attention. And he put the link to what he was trying to sell him in the Venmo request, and it got the conversation rolling. And it's just like, there are some pretty creative ways that I want to test with our own SDRs. And yeah, I find it interesting of like, how are people trying to break the mold?
Yeah.
Because it's hard to do that.
So actually, I have to ask you, I know we're talking about your podcast, but I do also want to talk about your SEO. I think you have a little bit of insight on there. You said you have 1.2 million visits per month.
Yep.
You've seen the back end of this demand gen engine. Tell me about what you guys are doing there. You guys have a blog, you have case studies, you have an awesome template library.
Yes.
Tell me more.
So we're definitely doing a lot. And I would say this about our SEO efforts. We started them 6 years ago. So take that into consideration. We had one demand gen person, and he is still there at PandaDoc, but he got into the space when it was still relatively easy to get into. I would say starting from scratch and trying to do that today is much more difficult. Nonetheless, we have an army of freelancers that we were using to help us create relevant content that answered people's questions and ensured that we were showing up for every possible keyword related to our product offering. And that's kind of where we started. And it spawned into everything you just mentioned, and scaling into building out a huge template library. I would say, though, that one of the things we've seen with the template library is that's a little bit more relevant for smaller organizations, or more like, customers who only purchase one seat, maybe two. For more of our like mid-market and enterprise, they're probably not necessarily going to purchase PandaDoc because of our template library, but it's definitely kind of a piece of the puzzle. And what we've actually seen recently, so yeah, we do have 1.2 million monthly website visits, unique visits onto the PandaDoc website. And where we're seeing some interesting trends is in YouTube. That's where we're seeing a huge uptick in conversions. Okay. And we've started to see a little bit of a plateau in paid search. We're still investing in paid search. It's still a major part of our lead generation strategy. But we're starting to explore how can we expand our YouTube efforts, because YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. And we found out that many people are self-serving, and they want to, what we call self-serving, which just basically means they don't want to talk to a salesperson. They want to get an answer to their question, find a solution to their problem, and purchase the product and start using it without ever talking to anybody from our company. And so that is something we want to be able to provide a way better experience of, by having all of our trainings, all of our how-tos really embedded into our YouTube playlists, and have them be really well done, and not just a screen share of like, here is how, if you want to create an e-signature ready document, how you can do that. I don't know why I use that voice, but yeah, that's like the stuff we're trying to get away from. So we're starting to expand our efforts into video, into YouTube, and ensuring that we're going to convert those people. So they go from YouTube, they watch some of our content, they find it either entertaining or educational or inspirational, and then they go to our website, sign up for a free trial, request a demo, or just sign up and start using the product right away. That's the ultimate end goal for us, as we're starting to see how dang expensive the paid space is on search, and it's just getting more and more ridiculous. And if you're not, one of the big boys, it can be really tough to play in that space.
Yeah, it's crazy. So are you in charge of YouTube?
I am in charge of it. Yeah, I guess you could say it's like a team effort. But if you go to our YouTube, you'll see my dumb face plastered all over the place. And I am working with our demand gen team this year. We're working on some on-demand demo videos. That's our next big initiative, where basically, like, somebody doesn't want to request a demo, they can watch a demo. And we're trying to make them as tailored as possible, and starting with just a couple use case instances of how to use our product. And we're going to be running more and more YouTube ads, and then branching off into some really cool content, like customer stories that are not just boring customer testimonials, building out an entire learn playlist of like how to write a business proposal, how to guarantee your contract gets a signature, those types of videos that people genuinely need to learn a little bit more about, and we can teach them.
And where does the customer engagement podcast fit into that?
So basically, similar to what y'all are trying to do, we want to become PandaDoc Studios. That's our long game, and we want to start with our core values as a company, which are L.I.F.E. L is for learn, I is for impact, F is for fun, and E is for empathy. And we want to take each of those core values and create a video series based off of those concepts. So the podcast fits into F for fun. It's a business comedy podcast. And we want to give a place for people to go tune in once a week or every other week and just let their hair down, have a few giggles, and hear from some, smart people.
I love that. That's how lucky you are to work for a company that values fun and that has that long-term vision. That if some B2B founders look at this vision, they're like, well, where's the P? It should be PIFE for profit, but it actually does translate into profit. Focusing on fun and focusing on this content and multimedia production, even if not all the content is made for converting.
And my main man, Chris Walker from Refine Labs, is, really the megaphone pioneering this shift in how we think about traditional marketing efforts, and that P for pipeline and profit. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be Chris Walker or try to butcher and regurgitate what he's saying. But our organization, I am extremely lucky. And it's not all glitz and glamour. I will tell you that there are certain people who still feel that they're like, PandaDoc's not a funny company. And I've had people say that to me, and I'm like, okay, but we got to start somewhere. Like, you're not just born funny. Like, think of some of your favorite, brands that are playful. Like, they didn't just, have that happen overnight. Like, you have to start somewhere. Yeah. So let's start with the podcast. Let's see what the reaction is. And we're not necessarily in it to have every single podcast guest become a PandaDoc customer. I would much rather every podcast guest become my friend. And that sounds so corny, but that's honestly the truth. Is like everything, in my opinion, is really word of mouth marketing these days. And if I can genuinely make some friends along the way And I know I work for a company who has a pretty damn good document management and e-signature tool. If they're in need of that, cool, check us out. If it fits what you need, great. If not, doesn't matter. That's okay too. So it's really a brand play, and it took some convincing over a couple of months for the executive team to get on board with that, because the traditional thinking is show me the quantitative analytics that attribute your podcast to dollars. Luckily, we did have a couple of guests become customers. So all the mics and cameras I had to buy have now been, we're now in the black, and I've made even. But no, I genuinely, I'm always trying to promote whatever it is, my guest wants to promote. We had Tim Clark from Salesforce on, who has an awesome nonprofit called Uncrushed that's for mental health in the business world. And I was like, I want that to be what we promote in this episode. So another good friend of mine from HubSpot, she's a sommelier, and now I'm trying to convince my director to have her come do a wine tasting as a fun event for us. So I'm always trying to come at it from that angle and look at this as a long-term brand play, so that people recognize PandaDoc as a place where cool, fun people work with a product that you may or may not need.
I think that you're on the right path, and now I'm pretty excited to listen to more of your episodes.
Yeah, I'm excited to listen to more of yours too. I was immediately drawn. I was like, yes, look at the name of this company. And I was just like all over your website, and I was like, ooh, yay, I can't wait to talk.
It's my dream to somehow get more comedy. I wanted to do some comedy skits. I've got a bunch of ideas. I just need crew and a camera. I got a mic now, so
there you go. You got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
On our very first what the proof of concept podcast episode we did, what was it was a terrible skit too. We did a sales call fail reenactment, where basically we took a recording, a sales loft recording from a sales call from somebody in our company that had made, and the person on the other line had threatened to kill our rep. And
it's a bit of a fail.
Yeah. And so we reenacted it, and that was like, and my bosses were like, this is really what you want to do with the show, huh? And I was like, yeah. And so far, like, again, a couple naysayers here and there, but the overwhelming majority of people are like, this is awesome, and we're just getting started. So like last week I did a segment where apparently my co-host thinks I sound and look a little bit like Morty from Rick and Morty, and the popular Adult Swim cartoon.
I know it.
And yeah.
I don't think, unless you do an impression, I'm open to it.
So I did a Morty impression of trying to cold call somebody selling PandaDoc.
Were you actually actually cold calling somebody?
I was fake cold calling my co-host, and then asked him for advice on how Morty can do a better job selling PandaDoc.
Oh my God.
So,
this is so good.
It's just dumb shit like that. But yeah.
It's too bad he didn't do Rick. I mean, that he wasn't Rick while you were Morty calling him.
He was genuinely, I didn't tell him I was going to do this. That's like half the fun of the show, is I just show up and just surprise him with like sketches and segments and videos, and just getting his reaction is like, and he's like, yeah, I'm not even going to try Rick. Like, nope, not after that. So
you said that he's a sales guy?
He is.
Is he funny too?
I think he's way funnier than me.
Oh, really?
I think he's what makes the show. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, what would you have done? I mean, did you get to choose your podcast partner?
I did.
Co-host?
Yeah. So
okay.
We actually had a podcast where it was just him interviewing people. And we did that for a year, and I was producing things on the back end where I was like setting up the interviews, doing the follow-up, the syndication and promotion of each episode. And we were basically like co-hosts for the B2B growth show. So rather than just jump into the podcast game into the deep end, my content manager was like, why don't we dip our toe, see how this actually all works, and partner up and become like co-host, sponsor hosts for a show that already has thousands of listeners.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we ganged up with Sweetfish, and we were a co-host. We would record our episodes and send them to them, and then they would launch them on their show, which was like a cool concept for us. And that gave us just like a year to figure this out and realize how much work goes into this. So like, bless you, Mava, for like putting your show together, because you have so many other things to do.
I have help. I have help for editing and distributing.
But bless you for even taking the time out of your day to like interview people, because it is so much work. And I think like Sweetfish shared with us, like 70% of people that start a podcast give up after episode 7.
You know what? Honestly, I think it was my podcast that has moved my business forward. Like, it's the reason that I was able to build my personal brand, meet some pretty important people. I work a lot with vacation rental tech and hospitality tech, and the vacation rental world is very small. So I just met a lot of people from there, big CEOs, and I feel like that's what launched and I didn't do it to sell anything. I just wanted an easy way to create content. I thought it would be easier. In my mind, when I first started it, I was like, well, I just talk to somebody for half an hour, then I could just turn that into a blog, and then I'll get pictures and blah, blah, blah. It's just, I could repurpose it so easily. That was my initial thing. And then I was like, whoa, hey, when I say, do you want to be a guest on my podcast? People reply way more than when I say, do you want to meet for virtual coffee or something,
Right?
Yeah.
It's genuinely a way to make connections and friends. And again, I know it sounds corny, but like, I probably never would have had, the chance to chat with you this in depth if it wasn't like, hey, let's do a podcast together.
Absolutely.
Like, I want you to come on my show now. So like, it really is a super cool way. And I know some people are like, oh, well, podcasting is, it's there's too many people already doing it. And it's like, do you know how many blogs there are? 10 times more than the number of podcasts. So it's not overcrowded. You just
it's different because blogs, there are so many that are written by people that don't care about what they're writing about. And you can't do that on a podcast.
You can do it for like 7 episodes and then
but you can't really you can outsource the production. You can't outsource your own personality. And somebody talking for you and showing up. That's what makes podcasts different.
Maybe some of them should try. A little snooze fest sometimes.
Yeah, I actually listen to podcasts at night to sleep, but it's a sleepy podcast.
There you go.
Just a lady.
Using the Calm app?
Yeah, no, I gotta give her a shout out. It's called Nothing Much Happens. She just tells stories where it's just nothing happening. Always helps me sleep. It's great.
I listen to Jeff Warren on the Calm app as he leads me through his daily trip meditations. And it is, not to get too controversial, but if there is a God, he sounds like Jeff Warren.
Okay. Jeff Warren. All right, I'll have to check him out. I had Calm for a while, but it was a lady. So
yeah, I didn't really like Tamara. I don't know. Maybe call me sexist. It's Jeff's voice. It's his approach. I just really enjoy him.
The voice makes a difference. The personality makes a difference. And that's why podcast is so good for attracting and repelling.
That's true. That's very true. God, I would love to hear about how podcasts repel people.
Well, it just makes you fall asleep or turn it off. All right, Travis, this has been so much fun. Where should people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
I would love for them to check out the Customer Engagement Lab podcast, available on Spotify, Apple, YouTube, the PandaDoc website. Connect with me on LinkedIn, and give Flying Cat Marketing some love, because y'all are pushing the boundaries. I love what you're doing, and we can talk offline about some mutual travel tech people.
Yes, love it.
Maybe some mutual connections, because we're doing something cool with somebody from the travel industry. So,
oh, really?
Anyway,
all right. Okay.
So, thank you so much for having me on. I would love to have you on, and maybe do some comedy sketches with us.
Oh, that would be so much fun. I'm in. All right. Thank you, Travis. And whoever has been listening or watching, please do share it, give it a like, go follow Travis on LinkedIn, listen to the Customer Engagement Lab podcast. And thank you so much for spending this time with us. Goodbye.
Appreciate you, Mabel.